Good morning, traders. I'm Dennis Dick.
And I'm Joel Elconin. Welcome to Premarket Info.
What an earnings day this is going to be. It's already starting out with some big guns, and we have some huge reports tonight, including Google, IBM, and Microsoft. We're going to break all the earnings down for you in just a second. But let's start with the overall market because we are getting a little bit of a bounce after yesterday's sell off.
Right, just a couple key levels to note before we move on to all the earnings stocks. Yesterday's low, 1538.75, missed Monday's low by 3 ticks. So major support building at that 538 level. Good to go north. We hold there. We're still quite a ways above from that level. Keeping an eye on the overnight high of the 1553.50. That's going to be our minor resistance. Really not a lot else in the 1550 handle, except for yesterday's intraday high at 1558.75. So maybe we'll have a little bit calmer day here and consolidate in the 1550
But
handle.
with all the earnings, who knows? We could be a little bit wild because of such big guns reporting. I do want to talk about Apple here too, because like we were suspecting, if Apple was to take out the 419 level, I think we were talking about this on the show for the last month. It could have that washout down to 400. I didn't think it'd have enough momentum to do it in one day, but it did. It cut all the way down. If you just scroll back a little bit farther, Joel, just scroll the chart over and you can see the actual move down. There it is, cut through that huge support of 419 where we had a triple bottom, and straight down to 400 in about 3 hours. So incredible down move for Apple. Did close above 400, which I actually like it. Because it closed above 400. I think if it stays above 400, you could get a few people who were trying to short it through 400 caught short. So, but that 419 level, wow, that is going to be
Yeah,
major resistance if we were ever get back up there. We're 14 bucks away from there now, but that whole head and shoulders pattern is now obviously formed, and it broke down yesterday, and it's just an ugly chart here from a technical perspective.
well, it just sat down there too long. Too
Yes.
many. One, two, three, four. Five, six times it held down there. It finally went through. I mean, from the perspective of playing it short, going through that number. Earlier, we had discussed that if it comes back up through it, it could be a bit, a good buy. Well, this time it went through 419 and it never sniffed it.
No,
So,
I actually believe
yeah,
I've talked about this, and I'm kind of mad at myself because I've talked about this 419 level a million times. I got
yeah.
tied up yesterday morning in a lot of different trades, and I come back and Apple's at 417. I'm like, oh, I've got to short this thing. I actually was trying to sell on the 418 handle, never got a sniff. Straight down, I watched 415, 412, and I'm like punching myself because here I am. I've talked about this on the show, shorting this through this 419 level a million times. I guess I should have placed some type of stop short order or something because I missed it just because I was tied up with other trades, and disappointing because I would have loved to play that through that 419 level. But if any of our listeners did do that, congratulations, because there was a nice quick 20 points there.
Right, and just a longer term perspective here on Apple. Just going back to the passing of Steve Jobs, I happen to remember the actual day that he passed away because it was my birthday, October 5th of 2011. And everyone was expecting the stock to fall out of bed. It was around the 380 level,
Yeah.
and that is exactly that stock just took off from that level and just never came back. And it's interesting that it looks like it's going to come back to that area and test that 380 area over the next couple of days. So those that had the theory the passing of Steve Jobs might be the end of Apple are getting their heyday now.
They're
It's
getting
certainly
their heyday
coming.
now.
It's coming back to that level. I know I said it, and I watched it go to 705. But it's interesting. See if you can get some consolidation around the $400 level and see if you can make any kind of move north.
Let's talk about a few of these earnings here this morning. We've got some big guns. Might as well start with Verizon because it reported earnings of 68 cents versus 66. The revenue was a bit light. Doesn't seem to matter. Stock is getting a lift here this morning. It's up about 80 cents, trading at 50.35 right now, close to 49.54. So a nice lift here for Verizon. I'll let Joel come out to the charts here. It's the resistance area is actually quite a bit higher than here. But go ahead, Joel.
50-60 pre-market high. since making that high, I've only traded down to the 50 level. So kind of a tight range here, but I know what you're going to be talking about as far as the
Yeah.
resistance. Yeah, all-time high there, 51.15. We're already up 81 cents, blowing through yesterday's high. A number of significance will be that 51.15 level, which was the all-time high.
Well, yesterday's high 50.35 actually, so we are right there, right at the high.
Yep.
So that's interesting too when you look at that. But we obviously traded higher than that at 50.60. But I'm just looking here. Since we've traded there, we have had a lot of consolidation right at 50.35, and now I'm seeing some offers for them at 50.35. So keep an eye on that number too. That'd be your initial resistance here during the regular session. Gets above there, it obviously opens up probably until you get up to that 51 area.
Yeah, and now that you point that out, I'm looking at Tuesdays and Wednesdays lows right in the 50.26,
Yeah,
50.33 area. So yeah,
relative.
that's going to be I hate to use the term swing number, but that's going to be a good swing number
For
today.
sure it is. Pepsi reported earnings here this morning as well, 77 cents versus the estimates of 70. Stock trading up about a buck right now, so getting a good lift. I mean, kind of predictable, I guess, of Pepsi after the Coke earnings there and getting the pop that Pepsi probably was going to have pretty decent earnings as well. Has traded a bit higher as Joel's pointing out, but I look at this $80 level and 80 just it looks big, man.
Yep, 80.53 is the pop that you had in the pre-market. Settled down a bit here to consolidate at the $80 level. Looking at the daily charts, you do have the all-time high at 80.48, so we can keep an eye on that level. Yesterday's high, 80.15. Having some trouble at the $80 level. We are holding it. You're playing it long off the open below 80. You might not see much support here until the mid 79s.
But we watched Coke off their earnings rally
Yeah,
$2, so it opened and it just kept running. So if this thing starts to make new all-time highs, don't get married to a short position here, because if it starts taking out that new 80, that 80.48 area, it can open up and it can run. Because if a $37 stock like Coke can run, or I guess a $42 stock now like Coke can run up $2, then Pepsi can easily run $2 or $3 too. So keep an eye on that whole 80.48 high that Joel's talking about. Morgan Stanley earnings 61 cents versus 58. Stock actually revenue. Well, I don't know if it's revenue or what it was that's knocking the stock down, but it's trading down 30 cents here right now. So they beat on the earnings, but it's not good enough. They're knocking the stock down. It's trading down at 21.15 after closing at 21.47. So Morgan Stanley not really enjoying their earnings report.
22.20,
That was the
excuse me,
spike.
22.10. Yep, the
Yeah.
spike up high. So doubt we're going to see that
News
level.
algo really got chopped
Yeah,
around on that one.
spike low 20.80, pretty big range, consolidating around the 21.20 area. I have to take a look at this on the daily. The daily gives you confirmation of that low 20.86. Also another low at 20.79. So the lows in the pre-market coinciding with the lows on the daily charts. Keep a whole eye on this 20.80 level coming back on the upside. The mark for traders is 21.47, so 21.47 to 50 should be minor resistance.
American Express reported earnings last night of $1.15 versus $1.12. They were light on revenue, and that's why it was trading down actually last night, 7.9 billion versus 8.05 billion. But it is slowly climbing here and actually now trading positive this morning for the first time in quite a few hours. You can see it was pretty wild off the initial report, trade up to 64.60 down to about 63.10, but has found some buyers here and is slowly climbing here throughout the rest of the pre-market.
Right, that stock took it on the chin yesterday, got as low as 63.43. I would keep an eye on that level as support. I believe that's where we got to in the pre-market. I got a little bit below it in the pre-market, but still like 64.43, along with the after-hours low of 63.09 gives you a pretty wide area of support. Coming back on the upside, yesterday's high, we're trading right there, 64.31, trading at 64.35. Think you can hold that level. Could easily go up and test Tuesday's high at 65.05.
Also reporting earnings last night was eBay. Stock trading down pretty significantly, 63 cents versus 62, but they see Q2 only 61 cents to 63, where estimates were up at 66. So the guidance is knocking eBay down a couple of bucks here this morning. It's trading for 54.16 after closing at 56.10, and you can see basically it was straight down after the report. I mean, when they report and they're lowering guidance, it usually there's not too much, not too many ways to interpret that as being positive. So it didn't really get too much of a spike on this one at all.
Well, 53.89's been the low so far in the pre-market train this morning. I mean, you're trying to get a little bit of a bottom here, not really getting a pop. See resistance at 54.40 here. That's only 35 cents away. Look at this at the dailies. This is kind of a funky chart here. You had the gap up, you came back down, you tried to fill it. 54.50 had been the low. Now you're back into this gap area. Should surely fill it this morning because of 54.51. So a big level of 54.50. I think we get above that, then you got a chance to go up and maybe test some of the real estate up to yesterday's low at 56. Coming back on the downside, I just don't like to see these kind of candlesticks here. $2 in one
Air.
day. Yeah, naturally, when you get into these kind of patterns here, there's not going to be a lot of support here in the 54 or the 53 handle.
UNH reported earnings this morning $1.16 versus $1.14. That's not good enough. Stock is down $2 right now, and this is filling the gap here. Joel closed at 62.03. It's filling it right now at $60, and this is where we talk about these levels on the show. When you can get these nice, beautiful gaps here, like it's filling it right now as we're speaking. The high of that gap's 59.36. It's at 59.75, so another 40 cents, and it will fill that gap up.
Probably by the end of the show.
Yeah. That was on that Medicare. I remember the Medicare news that popped Humana and UNH and popped a lot of these healthcare providers, but these two got the biggest pop because they had the most exposure to it, and it looks like they're going to give it back here this morning, at least UNH is.
What was that chart that we were looking at last week that just was it the IBM or something that was filling a gap with the gap?
I forget which one that was. Maybe one of our listeners remembers. I remember the gap with the gap. That was kind of crazy. This is kind of doing the same thing. Going to fill the gap with the gap maybe if it opens below 59.51. So hold.
Right. Yeah. And even in the 50, I mean, if someone had a little heads up going up into that Medicare news, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
It went to 55 to 59 and then 59 on up. But yeah, I mean, using this 59 level, 58.97 was the close on April Fool's Day, so we'll keep an eye on that as minor support. But then again, you get into this whole area here, down to 57, 57.01 major support today. Coming back on the upside, you have a long ways to go to yesterday's low at 61.96, so I'd say if you're trying to play this long at all, use the half and whole numbers as potential exit points because there's going to be a lot of pressure on the stock for all these people that bought it up here in this area.
Bring up the chart of Humana too. We might as well look at that because that's slowly been climbing down ever since they had the big gap up on the news too. Look at that. That was just a ridiculous run for Humana. A gift for all the longs there as it went basically from the low of the last 4 months to the high of the last 4 months, basically, in 3 days there on that whole Medicare news. Stock obviously trading down a little bit here this morning. It's down about $1 with UNH earnings, and I'd expect some continued pressure in this entire sector here today as UNH did disappoint.
How can you step out and try and buy this stuff? I mean, after these kind of moves up, 73.28, it's been the low of the last trade. I mean, I think the only people that are going to be stepping in to buy this stock until under $70 are the people that got caught short in this vacuum here, or if it's short in here.
Yep.
I mean, I just can't see any other reason that come back down to this area. You have major support. It's $4 away from here, 69.07. But boy, if it doesn't come and trade between 70 and 74 a while, I'll be surprised.
I can give you a few. We won't go through all the charts, but CIWLP. could all have a little bit of sympathy move. There's quite a few others in that sector, so I think Humana's the one that moves with UNH a little bit more than some of the other ones, but
Is there
there's Aetna, AET, so there's quite a few stocks that actually could trade down in sympathy here with this UNH earnings. What were we going to
the
ask?
well point's holding up? The well point's holding up. What's it? I mean, is it offered
No,
at
no,
a
it's
lower
it's
price?
it's down. Yeah, it hasn't even traded this morning, the well point, but it's offered down at 68.75. So we're up 6 points on the
Okay.
SPOOs, and it's offered down 30 cents, and nobody's sniffing them. So, and the best bid's down at 67.50. So, Wellpoint's probably going to open down with this too. But the one that moves the most with it usually is Humana. So, UNH and Humana tend to follow each other a little more than some of the other ones. But still, they when there's bad earnings in the sector, you got to think it's going to hit some of the other ones here too. Philip Morris reported earnings this morning, Joel. Buck
Who
29.
didn't report
I know
earnings, man?
everybody's reported
Jesus
earnings.
Murphy.
Yeah, this is the big day. Wait till you hear who's going to report tonight. Philip Morris, $1.29 versus $1.34. So they missed on earnings. They're lower in guidance, 555 to 565 versus 572. Hard to find good news in this report, and the stock
Yeah.
is getting beat up on it. It's down $1.25 here at 92.75.
You're depressing me with all these negative earnings reports. I mean, you think the
Verizon was
market
good.
would be in the pisser, and you know, 92.70 is the low we've hit in the pre-market. Really, not even trying to get a bounce here. Not a ton of volume with it. Let's look at the dailies here. Look at that low there at 92.80. So you do have a support point here to keep an eye on, 92.80. If that doesn't hold, 92.33, and then going down a little bit lower than that. Several lows, two lows between 91.95 and 92.07. So that looks like a good support point today.
So reporting tonight, we're going to give you a little technical on all of these stocks: Google, IBM, Microsoft, and CMG. Let's start with Google, though. Everybody will be watching for this report. It's up $4 in the pre-market, obviously with fair value here. 787 is where it's trading right now. 800 has been absolutely enormous for this stock. It's just a big swing number. Obviously broke down through 800 a couple of weeks ago. It's found resistance up in the 795, 796 area. But after the earnings, we know Google likes to move 30, $40 on its
Yeah.
earnings reports. So very difficult to say, that an 800 level is going to hold. I think just keep an eye on that low that we set. Probably, if the earnings report is bad, we'd keep an eye on that 768 low from the 8th. And obviously, if the earnings are good, then I look at a couple of tops that we had at 814 back on the 2nd and the 3rd.
Yeah, this is after making the low at 768.40 back on April 8th. You kind of had a slow climb
It's
up,
chopped
but
around a lot.
yeah, it's chopping around here a little bit. For today, I'd keep an eye on 776. That's kind of been the low for the last 6 trading sessions. So if you're trying to cover short ahead of that, I imagine if you're short and you've had the opportunity to do that, in this entire area, you would probably be at, targeting this whole 7780, area to cover it. If you're, I mean, I don't think it could have the same move off earnings that it did at, that it did the last time. I mean, that was just incredible. Coming back on the upside, the lows of, or the high 796.97. I think if you get any kind of pop up to that area, you'll find some major sellers, and also that $800 area. But remember when everyone was upgrading Apple at 650, 700, and slapping that $1,000
Yeah.
price target on it? We really had a lot of similar goings on in Apple over the last couple of weeks. So
Google, yeah.
see, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's it's all a matter of market sentiment. Google's obviously taken basically everybody that was bullish, Apple and loving Apple have jumped on the Google bandwagon here. I mean, if they reported disappointing earnings, it's had a hell of a run basically from the 700 area all the way up to 840 just a few weeks ago, or actually about a month and a half ago.
What about the Google Apple spread right now?
Oh, the Google Apple spread is out. It's almost double. It's almost double where Apple is. Apple's 404, Google's 787. So at 808 it'd be a double. It's crazy. Here were two stocks basically 8 months ago that had the identical price. I think they were both trading around 680. and obviously Google has continued to climb, and Apple has just been destroyed. So yeah, the Goog monster is almost double the price of Apple. That is insane.
Yeah, I bet you there's a lot of people getting that rammed up there. You know what? That spread, man,
Well, just
because that
Apple,
is.
period. How many people got absolutely? I mean, that's why the stocks, when they stay out of favor, they stay out of favor for a long time. Because it takes a long time for all the little guys and all the investors to unwind their positions when it was overbought. I mean, a stock like Apple, when it runs from 380 to 700 in a matter of 2 months or 3 months, it's a bubble. It was a bubble before. It's a bubble now. We've talked about Apple. They get 51% of the revenue from the iPhone. I mean, and if they don't continue, you can have iPhone 5, iPhone 6, iPhone 25. I mean, eventually, like you've said, Joel, and we've been pounding the table, they need to reinvent themselves. That being said, there's a hell of a lot of value here, and I love their cash position. That's the one thing they've got going for them. I do believe they still have innovators. But eventually here they need to come up with another product because they can't keep getting all this cash from their iPhone. IBM reports earnings tonight too. Here, Joel. This one really gapped up on its earnings last time. It was around 196 and it jumped up to 208 on its earnings report. We'll find out tonight what IBM's going to do. 209.67, or it's trading 210.35, so it's up about
Yeah, it's
60
heading
cents
up.
this morning.
Great area to keep an eye on. Last four lows in IBM between 209.20 and 209.78 held up pretty well yesterday during the carnage, making a 209.50 low. So if you're playing this from the long side, it breaks through there. There's not a lot of real estate going down to the 206 level. I'd use yesterday's high 1109 as a minor resistance point. The 2-day high, Tuesday's high, 212. But after this big run up here, you're kind of getting a little bit of triangle. I know we don't do a lot of this, but you got a little triangle action going on
Right.
here. Yeah, and I think now it's just winding itself into a tizzy here. You're either going to break out to new all-time highs or just come back down to this 206 level.
We're running short on time, but let's do a
Okay.
quick one on Microsoft because they do report tonight too, and I know this is one you love to cover here. Joel obviously has written pieces on this one in the past. Had the huge breakout about a week and a half ago through 29. It got through the 30 handle in a matter of 2 days after spending 3 months in the 28 handle. Came back down just as quickly, and now it's consolidating back in the 28 handle again. Is this revving up to blow through the 29 handle again there, Joel?
I don't know. It seems like even when the stock comes out with good earnings, sometimes it doesn't follow through. I'm just keeping an eye on this. The 28.51 level. That's been the low since that negative IDC report. And then it's snuck over 29 three times in the last four trading days, but has not been able to sustain it above the close. So we are trading up a dime. I just think it's still going to consolidate this 28.5, 29 level. And then, we'll see what happens after the earnings.
Well, that's our show for today. Tomorrow we'll do some analysis on General Electric, Honeywell, and McDonald's earnings. So big day tomorrow as well. Have a great trading session. We'll see you guys tomorrow.